Hello, my name is Himanshu Uppal. I am Assistant Professor with Department of Naval Architecture and Offshore Engineering. I would like to take up a lecture on basics of strengths of ship and offshore structures. Here in this lecture we are going to discuss loads acting on ships and offshore structures or marine structures. The course under which this topic comes is strength of ships. A slight prerequisite is required for doing this particular lecture about fundamentals of naval architecture, where a small part of why structures are arranged in a ship in a particular manner, what are classification societies, and a brief information of how ships and offshore structures appear and how they are how they behave in ocean or while they are in operation. A slight introduction is a prerequisite for this lecture. Those who are going to view this lecture can also find a few references by the end of the lecture. This lecture do not contribute to any numerical problems at present, but later that will also be covered as well. The content which will be covered are presented in this particular slide, where we will discuss about the background and some fundamental criteria of selection of any marine structure. Then we will move on to the loads on the marine structure, what are the different types of loads on marine structure and marine vehicles. Typically we will discuss all these topics. Let's move to the next slide. Like we all know that marine structures, when we talk about marine structures, there is a common terminology which is used, which is called as scantlings, and scantlings are nothing but the commonly used terms for structural layout and determination of geometrical properties. In this particular presentation, we are going to discuss a slight of why it is essential to be understood right now, because determination of geometrical properties of a structural element of any marine structure or a ship is a mandatory requirement. As you can see in the images, that the image describes a particular section of a ship. It can be assumed that it is a midship section, where this section is given various structural details at various levels. Why they have been arranged in this manner has a specific reason behind it, and some calculations involved. But the basis of these structural arrangement comes down to the very basics of our fundamentals or the properties of the material, which is nothing but mostly covering to the strength. And if you will focus that the strengths comprising the yielding property, the ultimate strength, the compressive strength, elongation characteristics and properties of elongation for all the materials which are used in a ship. And moreover, we can also see that how the plastic deformation takes place or various fractures and fatigue characteristics are required to be understood. They are all linked to each other. When a ship or an offshore structure is operating, these properties are very much prior to construct the structures. They are required to be checked in the very initial phase of the design. For the non-naval marine structures, typically they have a code to be followed and standard to be followed, which are described by various classification societies. These classification societies might have been covered in your earlier courses of fundamentals of naval architecture and why they are important. As you can see in the slide also, that there are some names given here, and all are these names are of the classification societies, which are a part of member. They are the member of the International Association of Classification Societies, which are giving the codes and standards for all the ships and offshore structures, marine structures, how to implement the structural design, how to establish the loads and assessing various loads acting on the structure, and how to design the scantlings. Basically scantlings means the geometrical layout and the property, geometrical property means how much is the thickness, what is the length, what is the depth, right. So based on it we can say that an introductory concept which is coming through the classification societies. But the fundamental is all same. All these rules which have been developed, they are developed for the purpose to safeguard the ship, to safeguard the property, the environment. Nothing should get damaged and everything should be in limit. The loads acting on the ship will be discussed, followed by next slide. And we can say that we can say why these rules are required. So first of all, the marine structure is designed to resist the environmental loads and its own loads, operating loads, various loads which are acting on it while the operations are taking place on a ship or an offshore structure. To prevent any kind of failure, we require a particular design to be followed. However, the loads and resistance of the material are both deterministic as well as we can say probabilistic or uncertain in nature. Deterministic because from the fundamentals of strength of materials and strength component, what we usually go under examination of material through various numerical investigations or experiments, we can determine that probably these are the loads which are acting on a material or a part of a ship. One may also say that the structural analysis is done using various modern tools like finite element methods and structural element and node assessments for various structural vibration and assessment of various properties about material which is used in a ship for any part of the ship or offshore structure. One may also say that these structural analysis may not be very safe like as always, but we have to decide some reliability factor into it, and therefore when we begin the design process we consider that it should be zero probability, failure probability for any material or any structural member which is applicable. So you can also see why these are so important, because the structures are very expensive in nature, very high cost intensive projects or product it is. There are though we know that they are so expensive, but we know that despite of these structures being so expensive and cost intensive, an insurance agency is always looking after the cost part, where they rely on the classification societies for giving the inputs on the occurrence of damage or to any ship or offshore structure, and the insurance companies are directly linked to these or not linked, I would say it is depending on the inputs from the classification societies for the safety of any ship or structure. But there are certain basic criteria of selection of material. That is our interest, because though the previous background is talking only about the finance and cost part and reliability part, we must also understand the technical aspect of why we are choosing the material or marine structure in a particular way. So there are certain segments in which the selection criteria is divided. The first criteria is the strength to weight ratio, where the strength to weight ratio is required for the marine structure especially is required to be quite less, because these marine structures are quite weight sensitive in nature. The weight sensitivity is more prone into underwater vehicles like submarines, where the payloads, a slight increase in payload, ballast, water for a ship or a submarine can affect the strength part of the structure, and therefore the strength and weight is always in competition to each other, where the designer thinks or assumes whether the weight can be increased to that extent or not. Next, talking about the fracture toughness, is the property for absorbing the energy from any impact loading, where any deformation takes place or not. So basically it is the ability to absorb the energy before the plastic deformation. We can say it is fracture toughness. It is very important criteria, because ships and offshore structures are often exposed to impact loading or sudden loading for a fraction of time. It can cause damage. I'll give you an example, like green water coming onto the ship, like volume of water coming onto the ship in a fraction of a second can damage the deck plate of the ship. So therefore the design is required to be done in such a way that it should be considered in mind that why fracture toughness is important. Then fatigue strength, because ships and offshore structures are continuously loaded, unloaded, and the dynamics of these loads depends on cyclic loading and unloading. So therefore fatigue comes as a natural problem onto the structures. And then lastly, we can say that cost and ease of fabrication is another factor, where when we talk about the cost, the cheap material is required to be used, as well as in case of fabrication, when we are talking hydrogen embrittlement or problems of welding high strength steel are more prone in case of the construction. So these are some basic criteria. Now talking about the loads acting on the marine structures and vehicles, a marine structure or a vehicle is subject to different types and quantities of static and dynamic loading during its operational life, and some of these loads are mentioned here: static loading, bending moment, wave bending moment, horizontal bending moment, torsion, then dynamic loads and other operational loading, cargo handling. So various loads which are going to be acting upon the structures we are going to discuss. Let us talk about the static loading first and the vertical bending moment which is occurring. So static loading on marine structure is because of its own weight distributed along the overall total area of the structure. And since the ships, if we talk only particularly about ships, this particular lecture is concentrating on ships, not more on offshore structures. So we will talk more about it. As you know that ship is a long slender structure where the weight is not very evenly distributed because of its slenderness and various geometric properties of the shape of the vessel or a ship. The breadth or depth are slightly, when we say not slightly, are quite lesser than the length, and the weight per unit length gives the weight distribution in the longitudinal direction. The weight of the ship consists of its lightweight ship, where the structures, machinery and various structure members comes into picture, which are almost constant or on the ship, not almost constant, rather constant throughout the ship along the lifetime or lifespan of the ship. When we talk about dead weight, it is the payload which is acting externally because of the cargo which is being loaded into the ship, then ballast water, fuel oil and other various consumables which are the requirement for voyage to take place. So, these loads are variable loads adding to the light ship weight. This weight is supported by the upward buoyancy and the force proportional to the immersed section along the length of the ship is balanced. Because of the ship's geometry, it can also be considered that the longitudinal girder being loaded by an amount of load which is equals to nothing but the arithmetic difference between the weight and the buoyancy per unit length along the length of the ship. This gives rise to the static shear, and because of which shear force along the length the vertical bending moment takes place. So, when we talk about a ship structure, we must understand that it should withstand the shear stress and flexural bending stresses generated due to the loading under various conditions, which we will see in the next slide. Whereas you can see that the light ship condition, where only the structural weight and the machinery weight is coming, it has a particular weight curve and the buoyancy curve distributed along the length. And when the ship is fully loaded uniformly, it is shown in the figure 1b diagram, where the fully loaded condition is shown, and the buoyancy curve and the weight curve has again changed because the load has been added. And since it is maintaining an equilibrium, we can say in the diagram where how the change in the load curve has taken place from the previous figure. In the C diagram, you can see that the cargo loads are alternatively filled, where the sudden increase in the weight is visible in the weight curve here. It is going like suddenly increase for the first cargo compartment and then suddenly dropping because there is no load in the compartment. In the foremost compartment also, you can find that there is a sudden increase, because of which it is a specific loading criteria for the cargo. And the last condition is the ballast loading condition, where the diagram has again changed because there is only ballast water equally distributed along all the compartments along the length of the ship, and there is a similarity between the first and the last condition, but there is a slight increase in the curve characteristics. Let us see how the wave bending moment takes place, where the wave passes through a ship is in the head C, and head C condition means the wave is coming along head on, and the buoyancy curve changes along the length of the ship, because there are two conditions which are probable in nature, where a wave crest is developed along the midship, and the another condition where which is the where a wave trough is generated along the midship. We assume that the wavelength of this particular wave, which is heading towards the ship, is approximately 1.5 times the length of the ship. So, if you see in the diagram or in the picture below, the hogging condition where the midship is having a wave crest, and the sagging condition where a wave trough is experienced by the ship. Both the conditions have an equal amount, a different what we say experience, where both the conditions are important to be determined for a naval architect or a designer. How much bending moment is experienced in a still water condition, which we have seen earlier, and how much a ship is bending when, or how much is the bending moment when both hogging and sagging conditions are expected to be counted by the ship. So, considering the ship, it is not always poised on a wave, means it is not ideally standing on the wave of equal lengths. It can experience hogging bending moment or maybe a midship sagging bending moment, It can also happen that there is a slight change in the angle, where we will see and also discuss how the torsion is generated. And popularly, if you have observed, there are torsion box which is we say are devised in container ships because they are quite slender in nature, and torsion box helps in reducing the torsion which is generated when a wave comes along at an angle to the ship. Continuing to our discussion, the extent of bending moment depends also on the wave amplitude, and the total bending moment can be considered on a still water bending moment augmented by the wave bending moment onto a still water. So, you can find that a wave bending moment depends on the elevation of an actual sea surface, which is very rarely a single wave which is having a length equal to the ship's length, which I earlier discussed, and the ship is never be in equilibrium statically of the wave. You can see that there are 3 diagrams which have been presented, and I'll take it further in our discussion. The wave which is being seen in this diagram are given in figure 2. The first diagram exposes how the 2 sides of the ship, where port and starboard, experience a different lateral pressure. So, even in the wave bending moment, the estimated augmentation over the still water bending moment is statistically determined as the ship poise on a static wave. So, we do this by statistical assumptions and putting the data onto the ship. When a wave passes a ship in a beam sea condition with its length in the direction of the ship's length, the ship rolls in the hydrostatic pressure. So, because of the rolling, due to the wave orientation in the different is different on both port side and starboard side. As you can see in this particular beam sea condition, where the horizontal wave is experienced, horizontal bending is experienced for the ship, and the water pressure which you can see is not evenly distributed. It is because of the motion of the wave. The water pressure is changing. On the port side it is more, and on the starboard side it has reduced. And you can also see how the wave profile has been experienced, or it is visible in this particular picture. The load which is acting, it is also causing deflection onto the ship's structure. And the another case which is developed in the last diagram, it is the oblique sea condition. When a wave passes the ship, the hydrostatic pressure varies again from the port to the starboard in the different manner, from aft to forward, causing torsion of the ship girder. And as I discussed earlier, this torsion creates a lot of difficulty for container ship. Therefore, we also have a provision of installing a torsion box. Let us see how static external hydrostatic load is affecting the floating or a submerged structure experiences different statical loading condition because of variation in hydrostatic pressure normal to the surface proportional to its submergence from the free surface. So, you can see in this diagram also how the hydrostatic pressure is distributed along the hull. There are 2 hulls which have been shown. One is a hull which is a normal single monohull cargo vessel, where on the other side you can see that how a semi-submersible will be experiencing the hydrostatic pressure. The hydrostatic loading is normally compressive, so therefore, such loading of a floating ship or a semi-submersible can be visualized here. And when we add the cargo, the draft will be increased further, causing more hydrostatic pressure. Therefore, we can understand that all these external loads, hydrostatic loads, will be experienced by the ship structure. Let us also see how a static internal load affects the ship. So, if you see the diagram, the first diagram, there is a cargo load which is been added, and all these loads are coming vertically downward. There can be a local or a regional load which is concentrated, and because of the these loads they are distributed uniformly on the ship structure, and they cause different behavior, material behavior, the stresses which are developed, they are also differently, because there may be a bending, torsion, or a compression at various local structural members. Though we know that these things will happen, we are only interested in knowing what is the scale of these loads. Adding to these static loads, which are not only in the cargo compartment but also onto the deck and hatch covers, which are shown in diagram A and B, the loads will change. Not only loads, but also it will give a different behavior to the ship, because there is a change in center of gravity which affects the stability part of it. You can see, as if we are increasing the loads onto the deck structure, there may be a chance that ship will lose its stability characteristics. So it is typically understood that heavy containers will be loaded first onto the inside the cargo hold, and the lighter ones will be loaded onto the top. So if an empty container or a less loaded container is available, we can always prefer them loaded onto the main deck. We can also see that there is an engine load which is coming onto the ship in a particular segment, where we call it as engine room, and these loads are acting onto the specific region, causing vibration, and this vibration or dynamic loads also contributes to various problems. If you can recall that you might have learned, vibration can cause many problems and develop cracks onto the ship structure because of the whirling of the rotating mass. It can damage the shaft alignment or bearing which is supporting, as well as supporting the role of the propeller shaft in transmitting the torque to the propeller. And we can also say that this machinery and equipment of the ship structures are concentrated at a particular region, in a particular area on a ship, increasing the loads and in those local areas. Adding to that, if there is a tank which is available near to it, it is having some liquid in it, it may also be observed that these lateral hydrostatic loading, because of the tank boundaries which are acting onto the bulkheads or the vertical walls of the ship, can develop more problems because of such vibrations, and there may be some kind of leakages which may be developed. So as the dynamic loads or the external loads we have been talking, those were the internal loads because of the moving parts of the various elements, moving elements on the ship, like propeller, your engine, shaft, and other various moving parts. Let us now talk about the external loads. Now, external loads are basically due to the waves which are dynamic in nature, and they are always being experienced by a ship. This cause various variations in loading and cause vertical, horizontal, and torsional bending moment of various nature, and changes with different angles and different intensities. It is difficult to estimate the variation in the bending moment in a particular sea, and recourse to the statistical analysis can be taken by on the description of sea spectrum as shown in this diagram B, where how the wave energy spectrum has been shown on the graph, where a graph has been plotted against the energy and the encounter frequency. So this is another this is another visualization for us to support how the dynamic external loads are acting onto the ship. When the external load is acting onto the ship, this causes a variation in the vertical, horizontal and torsional bending moment. It is generally seen that it is very difficult to estimate the variation in the bending moment in a particular sea or in a particular way in a sea. On the description of such spectrum, it is a difficult or challenging calculation. This kind of loading generates variable stresses and patterns which the ship structure must withstand at that point of time. But more importantly, this causes cyclic loading and fatigue, which has to be taken into account during the design. There is a racking stress which is visible in this diagram. The racking stress is because due to the variation of the lateral hydrostatic pressure along the side walls and causes the distortion of the side walls, which keeps on changing when the wave passes along it. This loading can take place along the beam C, place in beam C and oblique C condition both. Now you can see that how a floating platform or a ship experiences a 6 degree of freedom, and which are like in all three rotational and 3 translational directions, or and how the acceleration in each degree takes place. This acceleration caused due to various wave structure interaction corresponding to the loading and motions. As you can see, the acceleration which is visible here in the rolling condition, and this is a rough sea which is experienced by the ship. The acceleration is oscillatory in many cases and gives rise to the vibratory loading on the platform and structures. The structure must be strengthened against such loading, and the ship's ends may be experiencing a racking stress because of it. These vibratory forces and in forward and aft structures are due to the combined pitching and heaving acceleration. To withstand such loads, the ship's forward end is strengthened, and the forward and aft and both are strengthened by giving panting beams, breasthooks and stringers. The dynamic loading, as you can see here, as a platform, particularly a ship pitches and heaves, as you earlier saw in the video, the forward end may go under in water momentarily, taking the green sea on board. This causes an impact loading on the forward deck structure, as shown in the diagram. Also here you can see that there is an impact because of pitching of this ship. If the bow has high flare, then the underside of the top forward structure may come in contact with the water, and suddenly there may be an impact, loading or slamming, which we say in general terms, which can be looked into this diagram part C. And because of this slamming, you require a strong bottom structure in the forward section. So we also say that 4 foot comes out of water. This then again pounding and slamming taking place in forward and aft, causing damage to the ship. So all these loads are very important to be known by us. The slamming or impact loading affecting the immediate as well as the entire ship structure and is known as whipping. So due to the impact loading, there is a high vertical wave induced the shear force and bending moment. You can also see that this loading is due to the oscillatory loading condition by changing the high frequency, and it quickly damps down also. The high bending moment and shear force cause the overall strength concerns with high stress on the structure, and since whipping oscillation dies down, this is not a concern of fatigue. Miscellaneous loading onto the structure because of various reasons. If we talk about a floating offshore platform, an anchored or tethered platform to the seabed are often affected by underwater currents. So these loadings are because acting onto the mooring rope or the tethers affect the motion of the top structure and causes hydrodynamic loading. As shown in this diagram, because of the current load, there will be a tension which will be developed in the teethers, it can affect the structure. In the second diagram, as you can see, the wind is affecting the loading on the top structure. So, the load on by the wind is coming on from the opposite side maybe, and there may be a current at the same time which can cause a shear. The same may happen to the ship, where how the wind loads can affect the top part of the structure above the water. Another internal sloshing of liquids which are there, and we have already talked about something called as vibration, not only because of the moving element which we are saying in the propeller shaft, but also the propeller induced hull vibration which can affect the region which is shown by the pointer here. Due to the various cargo load operations, these operational loads are also there, and we can say that the grab operations on loading, dropping the cargo from height can suddenly cause some damage. So, we must also take them into account that as they come under operational loads. Due to the loading and unloading of the bulk cargo, the oil cargo in a tanker, and the unloading or loading of ballast water, there is a likely to be fluctuation in the shear force and bending moment immediate stages to the operation at the port. And corrosion is also another factor which degrades the plate material. It should also be taken into account, because stress corrosion cracking accelerated by fatigue will definitely create an impact onto the ship structure. Now, loads, when we are talking, it is also because of the handling of the ship. So, there are various diagrams which have been visible when you are launching a ship. We can see here there is a stern launching. It may not be very, if we can zoom it, we can see here that the ship is entering into water, which may cause this part to be under a stress concentrated region, where you can find that during the launching, the support onto the land to the concentrated loading before on the fore poppet during stern lift or tipping at the way ends as in figure 8.8. And finally, the buoyancy support comes. So, there is whole handling. Because of the handling, we may experience some external extra loads, and again it can come onto these concentrated points when we are dry docking the ship onto the supporting blocks, and then again load will be concentrated onto these blocks which are supporting the weight of the vessel. And not only that, the ship, when experiences grounding, the point of contact where the ship is being hitting the ground can massively increase the stress onto that area, causing different stress distribution. And lastly, we can say when there is an impact which has caused because of an accident, again it changes the shear force and bending moment due to the impact when a ship collides with another ship. Bow of a ship hitting onto the side structure during this collision can be observed in this particular figure. So, all these 4 cases have been shown because a ship in its entire lifetime cannot be expected to go always safe. There may be accidents, there may be dry docking, grounding which is experienced by the ship while after maintenance, repainting. So, these are some of the loads which are usually observed. So, overall we can summarize that all these loads which are acting on a ship are mostly required by a designer to be understood well, and a designer must always take this into account before designing a ship. In my next lecture, I will discuss a problem where I will discuss a simple barge where how different loading condition can be expected onto that barge by adding cargo, and how we can calculate the shear force and bending moment. And we will also see how much stress because of the still water bending which is generated onto the ship, how much stress is coming onto the structure. We may also be able to do a scantling calculation for the same type of vessel. So I hope you might have understood this topic to a short brief, in this short brief. These are the references which can be taken for your further studies, where more in detail discussions are published, and these are quite renowned authors who have presented this particular knowledge base for being available to all of us, and this presentation was also being made using these references. So I would like to thank you for being a patient listener, and I hope if any doubt comes into your mind, you can always send me an email. My email ID is uppal.himanshu himanshu@amatuniv.ac.in, and you can keep me posted if there are queries, if there are points which you have understood well, if you have not understood well. I hope I will be able to contribute to your understanding further in a email conversation. Thank you very much for being available for this video lecture.